The Orion arm of the Milky Way was filled with light, sound, and life. Dozens of alien civilizations thrived under the watchful gaze of the Galactic Council, a grand alliance formed to maintain peace across the stars. From the blue oceans of the Vereen Dominion to the crystal cities of the Threx Confederacy, most believed the galaxy was safe and stable, but far away on a small, quiet world once ignored by most galactic races, something was changing. The humans of Earth were no longer silent. For centuries, humans had been seen as newcomers, barely understanding the complex science of faster-than-light travel. When they first reached the Council's borders, their ships were fragile, their technology basic, and their population small compared to great empires. The elder species treated them kindly but also with quiet amusement. To the Vereen Dominion, humans were dreamers, ambitious but chaotic. To the Threx Confederacy, they were emotional and unpredictable. To the Council as a whole, humanity was nothing more than an eager apprentice still learning how the galaxy truly worked. And yet, one message changed everything. It began with a distress signal from the edge of human territory, a place called Astra 9, a remote colony world orbiting a red sun. The signal was brief and broken, but its contents reached every Council receiver. It carried a voice that sounded calm, yet serious. To the Galactic Council, this is Commander Hayes of the United Terran Fleet. We advise all ships and fleets to avoid human territory. We are conducting operations beyond your understanding. This is not a threat. It is a warning. Please respect it. The message repeated 3 times and ended. When the signal arrived at the Council headquarters on VerexPrime, it caused confusion, not fear. The hall filled with laughter as diplomats whispered among themselves. Humans issuing warnings? One Threx official chuckled. They can barely hold their own colonies together. Ambassador Lyrath, a young and thoughtful member of the Vereen Dominion, didn't laugh. He studied the report carefully. Astra 9. I know that region, he said softly. There were reports of human ships gathering there, new types of reactors being tested. The Vereen High Speaker waved a hand dismissively. Nonsense. Humans play with toys they don't understand. Their message is likely a bluff, a way to make themselves seem important. But, Lyrath insisted, what if it's not? The speaker frowned. Ambassador, you are young. In time, you will learn that humans act first and think later. They're passionate but short-sighted. Let them test their machines. The galaxy will move on. The discussion ended. The warning was ignored. Months passed. Then, strange reports began to arrive. Explorers traveling near human borders claimed to see giant objects drifting through space, massive structures like dark stations or shipyards. Some said the humans were building something enormous, but every attempt to approach was met with silence. Council probes sent to investigate vanished without a trace. Lyrath watched the growing silence with worry. Something is happening, he told his aides. I've studied their behavior for decades. Humans act with purpose when they stop talking. Their silence means they're preparing. But again, the Council refused to listen. The Vereen Dominion's military leaders even laughed at the idea. Humans can barely maintain a defense fleet, one admiral joked. Even if they are building something, it will probably fall apart before it launches. Still, Lyrath could not shake his unease. Every piece of information he found pointed to the same pattern. United human colonies, shared technology, and no more political divisions. Humanity was no longer scattered. They had become one. One evening, Lyrath stood on the balcony of the Council Tower, staring into the night sky of VerexPrime. The twin moons shone above, and the stars glimmered faintly across the black sea of space. His aide, a young Threxian named Sora, joined him. You look troubled, Ambassador, Sora said. I am, Lyrath replied quietly. Tell me, how many times in history have we ignored warnings because we thought ourselves superior? Sora hesitated. Too many, Lyrath sighed. The humans may be emotional, but they are not foolish. Every time we've underestimated them, they've surprised us. They build faster than we predict. They adapt to everything. Even their losses teach them faster than most races can learn from success. He turned to look at the glowing horizon. They sent a warning, not a threat. That means they were offering peace first. And we laughed at them. Sora didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence of space was already heavy with meaning. Weeks later, a small survey ship from the Vereen Dominion entered human space. Its captain, a cautious explorer named Zeltor, expected to find empty systems and a few trade posts. Instead, his scanners picked up an organized network of stations orbiting multiple planets, each station emitting faint, precise signals. When he tried to open communications, a calm human voice answered, "This is Terran Defense Station 07. You are entering restricted space. Please return to your designated sector." Zeltor frowned. "Restricted? By whose authority?" The reply was simple. "By the authority of the United Terran Accord. We warned you." Then the transmission ended. Zeltor tried again. He sent friendly greetings, then a request to meet. No response came back. As he approached closer, his ship's systems began to malfunction. His sensors flickered, his engine slowed, and navigation readings scrambled. Within minutes, the stars themselves seemed to blur. Panicking, Zeltor turned his ship around and retreated. The moment he left the restricted zone, everything returned to normal. What was that? His first officer gasped. Zeltor didn't know. But one thing was clear. Humans had technology the Council had never seen before. When he returned to EpicSciFi, he delivered his report. The Council listened with disbelief. "Impossible," said one commander. "No human could do this." Lyrath, however, believed every word. "It's possible," he said firmly. "They warned us. Now they are making sure no one crosses their borders again." The debate dragged on for hours. Some called for an investigation. Others dismissed it as a technical illusion. In the end, the Council decided to send another probe, larger, faster, equipped with the best shielding available. That probe never returned. Its last transmission was a single line of text. "Do not enter. This is your second warning." After that, all communications from that region stopped. Months passed and the galaxy moved on. Trade continued, diplomacy thrived, and the Council grew comfortable again. But those who paid attention noticed a quiet shift. Human ships no longer traveled in small convoys. They moved in precise formations, their fleets coordinated as if guided by a single purpose. Lyrath began to receive reports from other ambassadors, strange signals on long-range sensors, stars being mapped with new accuracy, and deep space buoys placed in unknown sectors. Humanity was no longer expanding randomly. They were building something vast, silent, and organized. The old joke among alien diplomats, "Humans act without thinking," no longer made anyone laugh. One night, while reviewing a stack of reports, Lyrath received an encrypted message from an unknown source. When he opened it, a human face appeared on his screen, an officer in dark navy uniform with calm, steady eyes. "Ambassador Lyrath," the human said politely, "you once tried to warn your people. Thank you for that, but I must tell you now, your council ignored our first message. We will not send another." Then the transmission ended. Lyrath sat in silence for a long time, feeling the weight of the stars pressing down upon him. He knew then that something vast and unstoppable was already in motion. Humanity was not seeking revenge. They were simply moving forward, and the galaxy, arrogant and proud, was too blind to see it. As dawn rose over EpicSciFi, Lyrath whispered to himself, "We were warned, and we chose not to listen." He looked out at the stars once more, and for the first time in his long life he felt fear, not of war, but of the quiet certainty that humanity would no longer be underestimated. They had sent their warning, and the galaxy had laughed. But soon everyone would understand. The humans always remember. The galaxy did not notice the change at first. Humanity moved quietly like a whisper through the void. While the Galactic Council argued in its shining halls about politics, trade, and pride, the humans worked. They built in silence, without announcements, without fanfare. Every colony that had once struggled began to grow stronger. Worlds once barren and dusty now shimmered with green forests and blue oceans, shaped by advanced terraforming machines that no one had ever seen before. Where other species expanded for glory, humans expanded for purpose. On the world of Eden 4, once a failed mining colony, dawn broke over a valley of silver towers and humming energy fields. Huge construction drones glided through the air, placing panels of metal that seemed to melt into one another. Commander Mira Solon, the colony's lead overseer, stood on a platform watching her workers. Everything on schedule? She asked her aide. Yes, Commander, came the reply. The habitat domes are complete, atmospheric processors are stable, and the new drive cores— Keep them hidden, Mira interrupted softly. The Council's eyes are still watching. The aide nodded, understanding. Humanity's new technologies were not for show. They were for survival. Across light years, dozens of human colonies echoed the same rhythm. Quiet progress. No one boasted, no one bragged. But in secret, humanity's unity grew. The once divided nations of Earth had merged under one banner, the United Terran Accord. This alliance was not born of war, but of realization. The humans had learned that the galaxy respected strength, not kindness. Their first warning had been ignored. Now they prepared for a future where no one would ignore them again. Ambassador Lyrath of the Vereen Dominion continued to observe these changes from afar. He had become a quiet voice of concern within the Council, though few listened to him anymore. The others saw his caution as fear, but Lyrath knew better. He studied reports of new trade patterns. Human fleets were moving efficiently, establishing trade posts in neutral zones faster than any alien species could react. Every fleet operated as if it were part of a single mind. Even more curious were the stories of alien traders returning from human space. They spoke of cities that glowed like stars, of orbital stations that could repair ships in minutes, and of humans who spoke politely but refused to share how their technology worked. They are not showing us everything, Lyrath whispered to himself. They are holding something back. One day at the Galactic Council chamber, a discussion began. Ambassador Lyrath, said the High Speaker of the Council, your Dominion has submitted multiple reports suggesting that humanity is expanding faster than our records indicate. Can you explain why you think this is a problem? Lyrath stood. It is not a problem yet, but it could become one. Humans are uniting. Every time we have dismissed them, they have grown stronger. They no longer request approval for new colonies. They simply build them. A Threxian diplomat clicked his claws in amusement. And what will they do with so many worlds? Farm vegetables for their breakfast? Some laughed, but Lyrath's golden eyes did not waver. Perhaps. But their silence is what concerns me most. No one knows what their fleets are doing beyond the mapped sectors. Even our best probes disappear once they cross into their claimed zones. The Council speaker leaned forward. And your conclusion? Lyrath's voice was calm but firm. We should talk to them. Before we can't. Meanwhile, in human space, the expansion continued. At Station Arcadia, orbiting the gas giant Juno 12, Admiral Helen Graves oversaw the progress of the Orion fleet, a formation of enormous human starships. Each vessel bore no weapon marks, no insignia of war, only the silver crest of the Terran Accord. She stood on the command bridge, watching hundreds of smaller ships load resources and materials. Every operation ran with clockwork precision. Status of the new jump cores? She asked. Stable, Admiral. Range efficiency improved by 12%. We can cross sectors without detection now. Graves nodded slowly. Good. Continue the silence protocols. The less they know, the better. Her officers obeyed without question. Every order was given in calm tones. Every movement had meaning. Humanity was preparing for something, but only they knew what. Far away, Commander Zeltor, the same Vereen scout who once received humanity's warning, was sent again to investigate. His new ship, the Vereen Starwing, approached the borders of Terran space cautiously. This time his orders were clear. Observe and report, but do not engage. As he neared the system of Astra 9, he saw them. Human outposts, perfectly aligned, orbiting the sun like guardians. The structures were sleek and smooth, built from materials that absorbed light rather than reflected it. His sensors picked up faint transmissions, but they weren't military codes. They were harmonics, energy waves that formed patterns like music. What is that? His officer asked. Power signatures, Zeltor murmured. They're channeling energy across the system. But for what? As he stared at the readings, a light blinked on his console. An incoming transmission. The same calm human voice spoke once more. "This is Terran Border Control. You are entering restricted airspace. Please reverse course immediately." Zeltor took a deep breath. "This is Commander Zeltor of the Vereen Dominion. We come in peace. We only wish to observe." The response came instantly. "Observation is not permitted. You have been warned once before." The transmission ended. Moments later, Zeltor's ship's navigation system flickered again. His engines lost power. The stars outside twisted slightly, as if the space around him was folding. Then, just as suddenly, everything stabilized. They were no longer near Astra 9, they were back outside Terran space without moving. His crew looked around in shock. How did they do that?" Zeltor could only whisper. "They didn't move us. They moved space." When he returned to the council, he presented his findings. The chamber was filled with murmurs and disbelief. "They can't bend space," said one elder. "That's beyond even our oldest technology." "I saw it happen," Zeltor replied. "They've created something new. They're not playing with weapons. They're shaping the fabric of reality itself." Lyrath stepped forward. "And yet you still think they're harmless?" he asked the council sharply. "They warned us once and we ignored it. Then they warned us again. Now they no longer ask for recognition. They command it." The room fell silent. As the council debated endlessly, human influence spread further. Their trade fleets reached worlds that had long been abandoned, restoring cities left in ruins by ancient wars. Their engineers helped small alien colonies rebuild their power grids and agriculture. To many small civilizations, humans became heroes, helpers who never asked for anything in return. But to the great powers of the galaxy, their silence was unsettling. The Vereen Dominion, the Threx Confederacy, and the Council began to realize something. Humans were gaining allies. Entire star systems pledged loyalty to the Terran Accord, not through conquest but through gratitude. One day, as Lyrath studied a map of recent human trade routes, he noticed a pattern. Each path connected distant sectors into a spiral shape, forming a circle around the Council's central territories. It wasn't random. It was design. He called for an emergency meeting. "They are surrounding us," he said gravely. "Not with weapons, but with influence. The humans are creating a network, one that will link every border around us." The council speaker frowned. "Are you suggesting they are planning something against us?" Lyrath shook his head. "No, I am suggesting they already have." Months later, at the edge of council space, a human ship appeared unexpectedly near a Vereen patrol. The ship did not broadcast identification, only a short transmission. "We seek no conflict. We only remind you, our silence is not weakness." Then it vanished, leaving behind nothing but a faint echo across the stars. In time, the Council's arrogance began to crack. The alien leaders who once laughed at humanity now spoke in whispers. They could not explain how human colonies flourished in impossible environments, how their ships traveled faster than any known engine, or how their silence carried more power than words. The phrase "we warned you" had become a quiet proverb across the galaxy, spoken with both respect and fear. Back on VerexPrime, Lyrath stood again at his balcony watching the stars. He could almost feel the shifting energy of the galaxy itself, like a storm forming beyond sight. "They move without sound," he whispered. "They build without boasting, and when they finally speak again, none of us will be ready." He turned his gaze toward the distant blue star of Sol. "We ignored the first warning. There may not be a third." The stars shimmered silently in answer. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for more than 10,000 years. Its members believed they understood every secret of the universe, until the humans began to move in silence. Now, that silence had become louder than any threat. Whispers filled the grand halls of VerexPrime, the shining capital of the Council. Reports from traders, explorers, and scientists all told the same story. Human colonies growing beyond known maps. new trade routes forming overnight and strange energy signatures appearing near wormhole gates. The council gathered in its main chamber, filled with towering figures of every known species. The High Speaker, a tall being with silver skin, raised his staff for silence. Ambassadors, he began, the human expansion continues unchecked. Their technology is now beyond our sensors. Communication probes fail, and even our strongest fleets lose contact when crossing their borders. We can no longer ignore them. A low murmur spread through the room. For the first time in centuries, fear had reached the council. Ambassador Lyrath, calm but watchful, rose from his seat. We were warned, he said. They told us not to trespass into their space. They asked for respect, not surrender. We refused to listen. Now we face the result. The Threxian diplomat clicked his claws. You sound as if you admire them. Lyrath met his gaze. I respect them. There is a difference. But not everyone agreed. Days later, the council decided to act. They sent a fleet, a grand force of the Vereen Dominion and Threx Confederacy combined, to enter human space. The mission's goal was simple, to investigate and demand explanation for the humans' sudden growth. The fleet's commander, Admiral Vorthen, was confident. He had fought in dozens of border wars and never lost. His ships were equipped with the best engines, shields, and weapons known to the Council. Humans will learn their place, he told his officers as the fleet departed. We'll remind them who truly rules the stars. The ships shimmered into hyperspace, leaving trails of blue light behind. But not one of them would return. 3 weeks later, the Council waited for any signal. None came. The communication lines remained empty, only static whispering through the void. When a damaged drone finally drifted back across the border, its recording showed something strange. Images of empty space, flickering light, and then nothing. No battle, no explosion, no sound. The fleet had simply vanished. Panic spread across the chambers. How can an entire fleet disappear? One ambassador shouted, Did they attack? Another demanded. Lyrath only whispered, No. They warned them again. Across the galaxy, rumors began to grow. Some claimed that the humans had developed invisible ships that could bend reality. Others said they used machines that disrupted time itself. No one knew the truth, but everyone agreed on one thing: the humans had become something else. Something beyond understanding. Yet humanity did not boast or threaten. Their message remained calm and simple, repeated across the galaxy through quiet channels. Do not trespass into Saul's shadow. Those who listened stayed safe. Those who did not vanished. On Earth, Admiral Helen Graves watched the stars from her office inside the orbital command station Sol Sentinel. Behind her, a holographic map of the galaxy shimmered, showing human influence spreading like gentle waves of light. Her aide approached quietly. Admiral, the Council fleet is gone. There are no survivors. Graves nodded slowly. Then they know now. Perhaps they'll listen this time. Do you think they'll try again? Graves looked at the glowing point that marked Varex's prime. Yes. Pride is a difficult thing to let go of. But we will not strike first. Humanity doesn't seek war. We seek peace on our own terms. Meanwhile, Lyrath sat alone in his office reading the latest transmissions from human diplomats. Their words were clear. We wish no conflict. But if provoked, we will defend what we have built. The Accord remembers every insult, every broken treaty, every ignored plea. Do not test us again. Lyrath's hands trembled slightly. He could see what others refused to see. The humans were not conquerors, but survivors. Everything they did came from necessity, not aggression. When he looked at the map of human expansion, he noticed something else: each colony, each trade hub. Each new relay point formed a circle around the core territories of the old empires, a silent wall. They're surrounding us, he murmured, not with weapons, but with unity. On the distant world of Halden III, a peaceful mining colony belonging to the Threx Confederacy, the first sign of humanity's true power appeared. One morning, the colony's central power grid began to fail. Machines stopped, lights dimmed, and panic spread. When the local governor called for help, a human ship appeared in orbit within minutes, a sleek vessel with silver wings and the symbol of the Terran Accord. A calm voice spoke from orbit. We detected your distress. Assistance is available. The Threx engineers hesitated. Why would humans help us? The reply was simple. Because you need help. Not because you deserve it. The human crew repaired the colony's systems within hours and departed without asking for payment. They left behind a small beacon with a single inscription: "Respect keeps the stars at peace." From that day on, Haldan III became one of humanity's strongest allies. But even as smaller worlds grew closer to humans, the great powers grew restless. The Vereen Dominion began secretly building new warships. The Threx Confederacy trained special fleets to counter human tactics. Fear had replaced laughter now. At the council meeting, tension filled the air. "The humans are manipulating us," shouted one delegate. "They pretend to help while surrounding us with influence." Lyrath stood calmly. "And what have we done to earn their trust?" "We ignored their first warning. We invaded their space. We mocked their efforts. Perhaps we should look inward before calling them the enemy." The hall fell silent. The truth in his words was heavy. That night, Lyrath received a private message. When he opened it, a hologram of Admiral Helen Graves appeared, her expression calm and steady. "Ambassador Lyrath," she said softly, "I know you understand more than most. Humanity does not wish to rule, but we will not be ruled. We do not forget what was done to our explorers when we first arrived, how your council dismissed our warnings, how your fleets crossed into our borders. We forgive, but we remember." Lyrath nodded respectfully. "Then what do you seek, Admiral?" Her reply was clear: balance, cooperation, respect, nothing more. Then the message ended, leaving Lyrath in thoughtful silence. He realized that humanity was offering peace again, but on terms that could not be ignored. Weeks passed and the galaxy began to change. Where once the Council's power stretched unchallenged, now human influence was everywhere: trade agreements, communication networks, humanitarian aid, and defense partnerships. Even the most stubborn empires began to understand that resisting humanity was impossible, not because of war, but because of trust. Humans had become the unseen thread connecting the galaxy together. Yet beneath that calm surface, everyone felt the same quiet fear. If the humans ever decided to stop being patient, nothing could stop them. On Varex Prime, Lyrath stood before the council one final time. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We have reached the point of no return," he said. "Humanity gave us every chance. We ignored them and they grew stronger. Now they hold the galaxy together while we argue about pride." The High Speaker looked down at him. "What are you suggesting?" Lyrath took a deep breath. "I suggest we make peace with them before peace becomes our only option." That night, while the council debated endlessly, the stars above Varex Prime flickered. For a brief moment, every communication channel across the galaxy went silent. Then a single message appeared on every screen, written in dozens of languages but with one meaning. "We warned you once. We warned you twice. We do not threaten, we remember. Keep to your word and we will keep the peace." And just as quickly as it appeared, the message vanished. In the silence that followed, no one spoke. Lyrath gazed at the stars, knowing the truth that others refused to say aloud. The humans were no longer a young race among the stars. They were the new guardians of balance, and the galaxy for the first time began to understand what that truly meant. The galaxy had never been so quiet. Worlds that once sparkled with trade lights now glowed dimly, their communication grids silent. The grand corridors of the Galactic Council stood empty, their golden walls echoing with the ghosts of endless debates. The once proud Dominion fleets drifted in low orbit, their banners torn not by war but by time and regret. Human ships filled the void, silent, silver, and steady. They did not come to destroy. They came to rebuild. Each ship carried engineers, medics, diplomats, and machines capable of reshaping worlds. Their arrival was never loud. There were no grand announcements. A soft hum, a glimmer of light, and the humans would begin their work. Ruined cities rose again. Polluted skies turned blue. And the same worlds that once feared the humans now waited for their arrival with hope. The galaxy started calling them the Silent Restorers. Ambassador. Lyrath watched all this from his station on the Vereen homeworld. Once he had been ignored, mocked for warning the council about the humans' growing power. Now he stood in awe as human convoys filled the sky, descending like rays of light. He could not tell if this was mercy or justice, but it was balance. He was summoned to meet Admiral Helen Graves, the Terran envoy leading the operation in the Vereen sector. She was known for her calm voice and sharp judgment. Many alien leaders feared her, not because she threatened them, but because she never raised her voice. When Lyrath entered the meeting hall, Admiral Graves was already there. She stood near a large digital map showing dozens of restored planets. Her uniform was plain, her expression unreadable. "Ambassador Lyrath," she greeted softly. "Your people have suffered, but they still have the strength to rebuild. That is something we admire." Lyrath lowered his head respectfully. "We are grateful for your help, Admiral. But I must ask, why? Why would humans help those who doubted them?" Graves looked at the glowing map for a long moment before replying. "Because your people remind us of what we once were," she said. "Long ago, humans ignored warnings too. We nearly destroyed ourselves. When we rebuilt, we made a promise to never repeat the mistakes of arrogance. We warned the galaxy not to walk that same path, but they did not listen." Lyrath's voice trembled slightly. "And now you make us listen through silence." The Admiral's eyes softened. "Not silence, reflection. Sometimes peace must begin where words have failed." Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. On the water world of Nalara, human engineers restored broken tidal stabilizers that had been neglected for centuries. The alien citizens stood by, watching in disbelief as humans worked day and night without rest or demand for reward. When asked why they did it, one human replied simply, "Because this is what being human means, to fix what's broken, even if we didn't break it." On the desert moon of Tisha, a group of human botanists helped restore native plant life long extinct. They brought seeds from Earth, plants that could grow in harsh soil and renew ecosystems. When a local governor asked if these plants would replace Tisha's old forests, the humans shook their heads. "They'll prepare the land," one of them said, "but your people will plant the future." It became clear to everyone that humanity's hunt was not a mission of revenge. It was a mission of correction. The humans targeted injustice, not species. They dismantled slave markets, overthrew corrupt rulers, and gave resources to the weak. They did not seek power. They gave it away. Still, there were those who doubted their intentions. On the dark moon of Varus V, an alien commander named Thalkar tried to rally a resistance. He feared the humans were hiding a deeper plan, to control the galaxy through kindness. "They rebuild to rule," he told his followers. "They give to gain loyalty." But when he launched a secret fleet toward human-protected space, something unexpected happened. His ships lost navigation. Communication collapsed. Then a message appeared on every console. "This is not how peace begins." No shot was fired. No ship was destroyed. The entire fleet was immobilized and gently towed back to Varus V. The humans repaired their systems, refueled their ships, and then left without a single word. For Thalkar, it was the most powerful message imaginable. He disbanded his resistance the same day. In time, the galaxy began to change. Old rivalries ended. Trade routes opened under the supervision of Terran mediators. Science and medicine spread across borders. The phrase, "the humans are coming," once whispered in fear, now carried a different meaning. It meant help was on the way. Ambassador Lyrath observed this transformation with quiet amazement. The humans never demanded tribute or submission. They only asked one thing, that each world sign the Charter of Balance, a simple treaty stating that no species should exploit another again. Every world signed, and as more planets joined the new alliance, Lyrath noticed something subtle but profound. The humans did not lead the council. They dissolved it entirely. In its place, they formed the Galactic Cooperative, where every species had equal voice. It was not dominance that humans brought. It was harmony through responsibility. One evening, Lyrath stood on his balcony watching the Terran relief ships depart. The sky glowed gold from their engines. Admiral Graves stood beside him. "Do you think this peace will last?" Lyrath asked. Graves smiled faintly. "Peace is never permanent. It's something we must keep building every day. But as long as there are those willing to listen, it will endure." Lyrath nodded slowly. "We ignored your warning once," he said. "But this time we will not ignore your example." Graves looked toward the stars. "That's all we wanted," she replied. "For the galaxy to learn, not from our power, but from our mistakes." In the following years, human influence faded from the spotlight. Their fleets withdrew. Their stations turned into shared centers of education and research. Humanity returned to what they did best, exploration, but the galaxy never forgot them. On every world they touched, monuments were built not in fear but in gratitude. At the base of each stood a single phrase engraved in multiple languages. We warned you, not to rule you but to remind you what peace costs. And so the great silence continued, not as emptiness but as balance. The stars, once filled with noise and conflict, now shone with calm purpose. Ambassador Lyrath wrote in his final report to the cooperative, "Humanity hunted not to punish, but to awaken us. They are the keepers of consequence and the guardians of hope. If they watch from afar, it is not to control, but to ensure we never fall back into darkness." Admiral Graves retired quietly to Earth, choosing a small home by the ocean. Sometimes she would look up at the stars and smile, knowing the galaxy was finally breathing again. She never saw herself as a conqueror. She saw herself as a gardener, one who trimmed the weeds of arrogance so peace could grow. As the waves rolled under the setting sun, she whispered softly to the horizon, "We warned them. And now, they finally understand." The wind carried her words into the night sky, across the silent galaxies, where the echo of humanity's legacy remained, steady, bright, and eternal. The stars had grown quiet. For centuries, the Galactic Council had ruled with pride and tradition, believing that order meant control. The galaxy had known conflict, mistrust, and endless disputes. But now, thanks to humanity, a new pattern emerged. A pattern of balance, respect, and responsibility. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They did not demand loyalty or power or fear. They simply moved with purpose, reminding everyone that trust and action were stronger than pride and arrogance. And the galaxy, for the first time, began to understand. Ambassador Lyrath watched the galaxy change from his observation deck on EpicSciFi. Once a skeptic of humanity, he had become their ally, their advocate, and in many ways, their student. The Terran fleets were no longer shadow-threatening alien worlds. They were guides, observers, and guardians of stability. Human ships moved silently across star lanes, always ready to assist, repair, and protect, but never to dominate. Lyrath often marveled at the way humans acted. Even in situations where others would use force, they chose patience. Even when insulted or ignored, they remembered the past but never sought revenge. They were different. They were remarkable. In the heart of the galaxy, the United Terran Accord called a historic gathering on Earth itself. Leaders from hundreds of worlds arrived to witness the signing of the Accords of Soul, a treaty designed not to bind others to humanity's will, but to ensure fairness, justice, and collaboration across all species. Admiral Helen Graves stood on the central platform as delegates from the alien worlds approached. She wore a simple uniform, her expression calm, her presence commanding without raising her voice. "Friends of the galaxy," she began, her voice clear across the assembly. "We did not come here to rule. We did not come to claim your worlds, your resources, or your peoples. We came to remind you that cooperation is stronger than pride, that understanding is stronger than fear, that the galaxy is not owned by the powerful, but shared by those who act with responsibility." There was silence in the hall, not the silence of fear, but the silence of understanding. One by one, leaders from alien civilizations stood and signed the accords. They knew it was not a surrender. It was a choice to work together, to prevent the mistakes of the past, to ensure peace. Meanwhile, on the distant star systems that had once been forgotten, humans continued their quiet work. On Zephyria, a planet scarred by centuries of war, human engineers rebuilt cities while teaching locals how to maintain them. Schools opened, hospitals grew, and farms thrived in soil that had long been poisoned. When an elder Zephyrian asked why humans did this for strangers, the answer was simple: because one day someone may do it for you, and when they do, you will know that hope is stronger than despair. On Calderon 7, a desert world now turned into farmland. Human scientists shared new technology that cleaned water, generated energy, and restored ecosystems. The locals who had suffered famine for generations finally smiled again. Humanity's hunt, once feared as an act of aggression, had revealed its true nature. They were not hunters, they were guardians, but the galaxy had not forgotten the lessons of the past. The once proud empires that had mocked and dismissed humans now studied them carefully. They sought to understand, not control. Their diplomats trained in human strategy. Their engineers studied Terran designs. And their youth were sent to human academies to learn not weapons, but wisdom. Ambassador Lyrath, watching all of this, realized a truth few others did. The most powerful force in the galaxy was not fleets or weapons, but memory and discipline. Humanity remembered every insult, every ignored warning, every moment of arrogance, and they acted not out of anger, but out of principle. That principle changed everything. Even in the darkest regions of space, the humans' influence spread. The Typhon Rift, a dangerous zone of energy storms and unstable wormholes, had long been abandoned. Explorers and traders avoided it entirely, fearing the unknown. A human expedition, led by Commander Mira Solon, entered the rift quietly, mapping safe routes and stabilizing the region. When alien traders approached to ask why humans were risking their own ships, Mira smiled. No one should be afraid to travel because of our mistakes. The galaxy belongs to everyone, and every path should be open. By the time the Terran fleet left, the Typhon Rift was no longer feared. Instead, it became a corridor of trade and communication, connecting worlds that had been isolated for centuries. In the Council's former headquarters on EpicSciFi, Ambassador Lyrath addressed the remaining leaders of the great empires. The humans did not conquer us, he said. They did not fight us. They acted quietly, decisively, and without demand. And in doing so, they reminded us of the power of patience, unity, and memory. Humanity is not our enemy. They are the mirror that shows us what we could be if we let arrogance go. They do not rule because they can. They guide because they must. If we continue to ignore their lessons, we will forget the cost of pride. But if we remember, we can stand together stronger than ever. There was no applause, only nods and quiet reflection. Lyrath knew the galaxy had finally learned. In the final weeks of the Accords of Sol, the humans began their last task in the great reconstruction of the galaxy: education. Human teachers, engineers, and scientists traveled to every world, sharing knowledge freely. They taught sustainable farming, energy management, medicine, and diplomacy. Schools were built in the shadow of once destroyed cities. Libraries were restored, filled with knowledge from hundreds of worlds. Where humans went, trust followed. The alien worlds began to solve their own problems, not through weapons or coercion, but through collaboration and intelligence. Humanity had not demanded obedience. They had demanded responsibility, and the galaxy responded. As the years passed, Ambassador Lyrath walked through a restored city on EpicSciFi. Children played in streets once filled with debris. Water flowed again in canals that had long been dry. The scent of flowers grown from seeds humans had brought filled the air. Lyrath stopped at a monument near the city center. A plaque in many languages read, "We were warned not to harm them, but to remember. Humanity taught us patience, unity, and balance." He ran his fingers over the smooth surface, reflecting on how far the galaxy had come. "They came not to conquer," he whispered. "They came to guide, and in doing so they changed everything." Back on Earth, Admiral Helen Graves looked out at the vast ocean from her home by the coast. Waves rolled gently, reflecting the golden sunlight. She smiled, not because of power, but because of peace. "The galaxy is alive again," she said softly. "Not because we commanded it, but because we reminded it of what it can be." Her family played nearby, children laughing as they built small boats to float in the water. She thought of the countless worlds now thriving under human guidance, of the leaders who had learned humility, and of the countless species working together for the first time. A gentle wind carried her words into the sky, a whisper to the stars. "We warned you. And now, the galaxy will never forget." And so the new dawn rose. The stars burned brighter than ever, reflecting not only light but hope. Alien empires once filled with arrogance now worked alongside humans, learning the lessons of cooperation and trust. The old conflicts faded, replaced by curiosity, collaboration, and respect. Humanity did not rule the galaxy, but the galaxy listened to humanity. That was enough. The humans had reminded everyone of a simple truth. Strength is not only measured in power, but in patience, wisdom, and the courage to act rightly when others fail. And as every ship, every colony, and every world continued to thrive, one quiet truth settled across the stars. Humanity does not seek war. Humanity seeks balance. And humanity remembers the galaxy had been warned. The galaxy had learned, and from that day forward the stars shone brighter, not just with light but with understanding, hope, and unity.